2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
Hey, welcome. I'm Pastor Dan, sitting next to guest host today, Brenda. Hey, Brenda.
Hey.
Brenda's across from Laurie. Hi, Laurie.
Hello.
I'm across from Laurie is next to her husband, Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Today on 2414, kind of a special episode, we have guests with us. It's been a long time.
It's just been you and Shane for a while.
It's just been me and Shane, which is not good. We have fun, but we found that it's complicated to schedule times to sit down with normal people. So thank you, normal people, for being flexible and accommodating to be here.
I was wondering where the normal people were.
Exactly. Well, you're here. So what we're going to do is a round of highs and lows. We'll play a round or two, depending on how it goes, of Outburst. Oh, man, I'm excited. I've not played Outburst with anybody besides Shane for a long time, and he was born after the game's sort of information bank expired. Oh. So more on that. And then we're going to talk about Dave and Laurie's journey of faith a little bit and this next stage of professional life, spiritual life, and the specific ministry pastor program, what that looks like for you two and for St. Luke's. So that's the agenda. We good? Agenda. Mm-hmm. That sounds weird. Yeah. We don't usually have an agenda. Yeah, it sounds way more prepared than we are. All right, let's get out of that. Brenda, could you kick us off with lows and highs from today, from the week, from the last 4 minutes?
I could. I feel like my highs and lows get very redundant or are boring because they're all baby related. But anyway, those are my highs and lows for this week. One is, my low is we had very poor sleep this whole last week. Which isn't the norm for us with Benjamin, but pretty sure he was teething. So multiple times a night of waking up, crying, and you feed, you do the diaper, you're like, I don't know what else you want, but pretty sure it was teething. But last night was finally...
And how old is Benjamin now?
He's 10 months.
10 months.
Next month. So we're like 10 and a half months. Next month will be his first birthday.
How long do you think you're going to be counting months before you start saying years and half years?
Oh, it stops at 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. So once it's 12 months, he's
so
a
in
year
12
old.
months, he's a year old.
Yeah.
Not a year and a half or 15 months.
We're not going to go to the 27-month-old.
Okay.
No.
90 weeks.
Yeah. No. Okay. No. So that was my low, was poor sleep. My high was, it was almost a low. Friday morning was our anatomy ultrasound for our second baby. And I found out 2 days before that children are not allowed in the room. So the plan was Adam, my husband, would go and we'd bring the baby and he'd go to work late. So then when we found out we couldn't bring Benjamin, thought, well, I guess Adam stays home and I go alone, which was going to be a big bummer. I didn't want to do that by myself, but I figured I should just ask somebody if they can come and help, because if I say something a week later, people are going to say, why didn't you say something? We could have been there. So I asked a friend. She spent the night before, so she could be there in the morning for our 7 o'clock appointment, and then we hung out the rest of the day. So it worked out, and a reminder of, we've got people here. So yeah. That was my high.
You got people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm torn right now between letting Laurie go next or giving you more time to think of a low and a high. Are you ready, Laurie?
No. That?
Well, I can come back to you.
You can come back to me.
All right. Dave, are you ready, or do you want to, I can go?
We can wing it.
Okay.
See if we can.
That's all we're doing. This is real life.
Yeah. A high is getting to spend some nerdy theology time on Monday evenings with 12 other people in a program, and it's fun. And I come out of there and Laurie says I'm like a giddy 12-year-old talking about weird stuff. So that's my high for the week. And like you, I hate repeating lows because it sounds like I'm on auto repeat for lows. But I work in a chaotic place, and sometimes that's just a little draining. But it sounds more complaining, but that's my low for now.
I don't think it's complaining, by the way. I think there's a couple things for me with repeating lows. One is there's a catalyst behind it. If it's a low that I'm responsible for, having to say it aloud for the 14th time can be helpful. Like, do something about it, Weber. Yeah. And if it's a low that maybe I'm stuck in, I think there's a permission to grieve and lament that other people might resonate with. Of, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be in a hard situation for a long time, and it's not just I said it was a challenge and then that made it feel better. Like, the Israelites were in Egypt for 400 years. 400 years crying out. And the Lord heard and he saw and he remembered. And so
I don't think I'll be here for 400 years. So that's a good reminder.
That's good. All right, Laura, do you have a low and a high?
Yes. Okay. My low is my health hasn't been great lately. So looking forward to improvement on that, although I don't know how it's going to happen. And my high, I guess, is that work isn't too crazy right now. It's actually doing some good things. I have a lot of testing to do, but I think it's not crazy right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. For me, let me think. I'm not ready. One low and high kind of entwined. Well, one low is I've still not been a good runner recently. I love running and I love racing. And in November, I was like dialed in. I was in good shape. I did a turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day, and it was my fastest 5Ks probably since high school. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go for a big race. And then I had a whole bunch of travel and a bunch of other excuses, and it's been really, really spotty. And it's at the point now where I should be running 60 miles a week, with 2 of those 2 days being like really intense, like a 14, 15 miler at a high intensity level. And instead it's like, I might do 8 miles this week. And it was, laboring to get out there and shuffle for 2 rather than I'm going to run 15 at a certain pace. And so that's a low. But a high and low pairing is I am trying to get better at sleeping. Which sounds weird for
Getting more sleep or better sleep?
Well, a little bit of both, but I don't remember when this started, because I remember like in college I slept just fine. Maybe kids threw it off, maybe stress from being adult, maybe just getting older. But it's not just like it's a variety of things. But I typically don't sleep well, so I bought a book on how to sleep. Because that's what I do. And so I've been reading and enjoying this book, and he's got several things. And the first one was like, you have to wake up at the same time every day. And if you wake up even if you're going to like sleep in on the weekend, like that's like traveling 2 or 3 time zones. Like you wouldn't do that every week and expect to always have good energy. And so I typically get up very early on Sundays and less early the other days. And I'm trying to find a middle ground so that I can get up at the same time 7 days a week. Which means 6 days, it's earlier than I normally would have gotten up. And now Sundays feels a little more compressed because I'm used to more time. So I'm trying to dial in what's that happy medium. So the low is I'm tired from being off a little bit. But the one high is I've had more morning time to myself. So I've been reading and sipping on my coffee and having a little quiet time.
And then throw in the time change this weekend.
I know. I forgot about that. So yeah, I'm like 8 or 9 days in. Like, all right, I'm getting this. I'm kind of dialed in. No, it's not the good one.
No, it isn't. Because I'll be here early.
Yeah, we lose an hour of sleep. So anyway, any other additions, highs and lows pop up as we went around? You're allowed to have an addition. Okay. All right. Dave and Laurie, you've never played Outbursts with us.
I have not. I've heard your outbursts with Shane.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of outbursts. So here's how it works. We're all playing collaboratively and cooperatively. We tried once where Shane and I played like different cards at the same time.
Oh.
It was mayhem. Well, actually, we didn't know what the card was asking. And so it was like places. It said place settings. That's what it was. The category is place settings. And I
table place settings.
Or it could be like locations for movies or novels. We didn't know, so we did both at the same time, and it was mayhem. So
All right.
we're not doing that. So we're all playing collaboratively. I'm going to pick a random card, and as long as it looks like it has minimal chances of being offensive, we're going to go with it. But this game was created in the 80s, so they had different standards for what was offensive back in the 80s. So sometimes we have to pull the plug in the middle of a card. But also for your reference, the answers it's looking for are answers from the mid-80s. And it's sort of like Family Feud, except I don't think they surveyed 100 people. I think it was just one dude in his home on his typewriter going, I can come up with 10 things about a category.
Yeah. We lived through the
You lived.
So.
Yeah, you lived through it.
Some of you did.
Some of you did. Three of us spent some time in the 80s. we won't say who's who. So I'm going to read the card. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to flip over the timer. Brenda's going to flip over the timer. We'll have about a minute or so. Say your answers as you're going aloud. Say them out loud. Write them down because we might not hear one another. And then we're going to score how many of the 10 we got. Shane and I have been we're not good. Some of our listeners can tell you how it's not good.
You've had lots of games. I'm looking at the cards up on the wall of past outbursts.
We've had a lot of
rounds.
opportunities. Oh, there's place setting right there.
Yep.
Toothpaste brand names. That one didn't go well. Control knobs on a TV led to several conversations afterwards. And we had to explain Shane that TVs used to have buttons on them, and not just buttons, but knobs that you would physically turn and would make a clicking sound.
Your father would send you forth to do. You were the remote.
Yeah. And we even just like 5, maybe 10 years ago, we've never had cable since we've been married. So different rabbit ear configurations for different channels. Like Fox was like this, and CBS was like this, and you couldn't move in the room if a sports game was on. Like, nobody move! I want to see this play. Because
describing another world.
I know.
And the aluminum foil that you put on it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right, so Brenda, you ready for the timer?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, our category is sand blank. Sand blank.
Sandpaper.
You say them out loud.
Castle, yes.
Sandstorm.
Sandstone.
Sandstorm.
Sandstorm.
Sandbar.
Sandbar. Oh, there you go.
Oh. Sandwich.
Sandwich. Yes. Yeah. Nothing is off the table here. Sand dune.
Sand dune.
Sand surfing. Sand fight.
Sand lounging.
Sand. We said castle fort. Sand.
Sandbox.
Sandbox. There you go. What'd you say, Brenda?
Sandra.
Sandwich.
This is not a mid-'80s category.
Who knows? We'll see what the answers are.
Yeah.
Sand.
Did you say sandstorm already?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Say sandstorm. Sand. Sand dollar?
Sand dollar, yeah.
Oh, good.
Good. And time.
Sand timer.
Okay. Dave, how many do you think we got out of 10 altogether?
6
Okay.
or 7.
Lori?
I'm going to go 8.
I like it. Brenda?
I'm going with 5.
Oh,
5. Wow.
I was going to say 9. I stand by 9.
Yeah. Okay.
I like Lori's. I'm going to play with Lori more. Shane's always like, we barely got 3. And he's usually right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
my gosh.
For those of you just listening,
what that
the
was.
technology here is this plastic red thing.
Also mid-'80s.
That is magical because the card is largely red, but you put this in it and it filters out the red, and then you can see the words that were hidden below. Okay, here we go. Let's count them up. Number 1, sand castles. We got it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, sand and sea.
Didn't get that.
Sand
No.
ampersand sea, S-E-A.
Okay.
What is that? Sand and sea?
I don't know what that is,
Okay.
but there's surf and turf. That's
Okay. Number 3, sandbag.
No.
Oh, has anybody ever here been sandbagging? Like it's a fun activity?
Yes. I
filling
have.
sandbags.
Yeah, like with a
Like for
flood.
a flood?
Yeah. In 1993, I was sandbagging because the Mississippi flooded, and I was standing on the freeway, like in the chain of people
Oh,
like
yeah.
trying to stop the river from destroying.
In the 1980s, the Canadian Army had me fill mini sandbags.
Yeah. So we're 1 out of 3. Great. Number 4, sandwich.
Got that? Really?
Schmelling, there it is. Top
Alright.
5. Okay, number 5, sand blast. Number 6, sandbox.
Yeah.
Got it. Number 7, sandbar. We said that. Number 8, sandpaper. We said that. Number 9, yes. Number 9, we said sandstone. I said that.
Yep.
And number 10, the movie. Somebody at home's right now
The
going.
Sandlot?
Nobody's Sandlot.
Okay.
So
All
Dave's
right.
right. So 6.
All right. I mean, it's not nothing. It's not 9.
It's better than half.
We beat 5.
But it's the closest to 5.
We okay. One more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do one more. I usually don't save my paper well. I just throw scribbles down. All right. I saw this category, and we're gonna do it. Are you ready, Brenda? Well, let me say it once. By the way, if you're still driving, pull over. Be safe. Think of others. If you're at a coffee shop right now, hit pause. Go meet your new best friend and say, "I need your help." We're gonna come up with 10 answers to this category from the 1980s. Category is funerals.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And go.
Funerals.
That's
JFK.
Basket.
Oh, is it stuff at funerals? I was thinking famous funerals.
Oh,
Yeah.
wake.
Okay, flowers.
Yeah.
Flowers,
Priest.
grave,
Yeah.
Rabbi.
grave diggers,
Chapel.
Urn.
Funeral home.
Hearse.
Hearse. Crematorium.
Ashes.
Urn. Did we say that?
Eulogy.
Bodies.
Bodies, plural. Okay. Singing.
Formaldehyde.
Music. Organist.
Oh,
Did we say wake?
yes.
Yeah. Suit and tie. Family. Oh, Kleenex. Crying. Grief.
I can see where this could go wrong.
Hope. Jesus. Resurrection.
Not a caravan, but what's that?
Time.
Oh. What is it called? The procession?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Brenda, how many do you think we got? I started with JFK, by the way. It's the first thing.
so
I said.
weird.
I thought it might be. We don't know.
I started with
But that didn't
casket.
happen in the
All right. How many did we get?
I'm going to say, I'll go high this time. I'll say we got 7. This
Ooh.
category is so broad. I mean,
7.
we named a lot of things. We named more things.
We said
this time.
things. Lots
Yeah.
of them.
So 7.
Lori,
I'm going to say 6.
you look a little more tempered there this
Yeah.
time. Okay. Mr. Gallagher?
I'm leaning into Shane. 3.
Three.
4.
I'm going to say 9 again.
Always the hope.
I believe in myself. I really do. And here we go. Funerals. Number 1, casket.
Yeah.
We said that
Yeah,
for
we had
sure.
that.
Oh, gosh. Number 2, corpse.
I said
We
bodies.
said body.
Yeah.
Half a credit.
Yeah.
We're stretching.
Corpse and body.
Okay, so 1.5.
1.5. Ooh, number 3, we did not get widow or widower.
Yeah.
They couldn't say corpse or body. It's just corpse. Widow or widower. Number 4, clergyman. I said priest and rabbi.
Yeah.
I
That
think-
covers it.
I think corpse is more defined because you might not want to bury a body that's still alive.
That's true. Corpse is very clear.
Yep.
Number 5, flowers. We said that.
Yep.
Yep.
Number 6, undertaker.
Oh,
Okay. Number 7, bereaved. I said grief. I don't think we said bereaved. Number 8, tears. I said tears.
Okay.
Well, I said crying and Kleenex.
That's
Crying counts, right?
Yeah.
No?
we got a lot of 0.5s here.
A lot of
Yeah.
0.5.
Yep.
Okay.
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 Number 9, hearse.
Yep.
Anybody ever here ridden in a hearse before?
No, have
No.
you?
Oh, lots of times.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, oftentimes as a pastor, I will, especially if it's like from the service, I'll ride over with them and back. So anyway, that's inside. And number 10, grave. Did we say grave?
Yeah.
Yes.
We did.
We did.
Okay.
So 6, including those 0.5s.
So
Otherwise, 5.
at the least generous 5, at the most generous we would have been.
6.
That's with halves. So what if those were each 1?
Oh.
Like if we gave us...
Okay. Well, then 7.
It's not very good. Okay. You're really generous. Like, in that case, one measly one more. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you pulled us back on track there with Brenda. I was going to start naming people who died within recent memory of the 80s, and it was going to run out real short. It was going to be a very quick list.
That was a direction you were picking to go.
Yes, we make choices. Life is full of choices. Yeah. That's the point of today's episode. One choice that has been made is Dave. You're studying theology right now.
I am.
I'm excited for that.
I am as well.
So here's a definition of what the program you're involved in is the SMP, Specific Ministry Pastor Program. So the SMP program is a 4-year, year-round synodical certification program taught by seminary professors, both online and on campus, in partnership with a local mentor pastor, leading to ordained pastoral ministry in a specific context. My guess is that's not how you would say it to your brother when he says, "So what are you doing again?" Like how would you or Laurie, as you would or have talked to your mom or somebody, "Hey, Dave's doing this thing. Well, what's he doing?" How would you two describe the program?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead. I'd love to hear.
Okay. I usually tell people that Dave is going to seminary to be a pastor at our specific church, not a, how do I explain it? I usually use the word specific ministry to just help the pastor at our church go visit people and serve communion to people who can't make it to church, so that this training is tied specifically to our church and that it is to help our pastor.
That's a really kind way of saying it. I hope it also helps God's people. I appreciate the support, but no, that's good. Dave, how would you describe, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're supposed to have elevator speeches or bumper sticker answers, and this one never unfolds that way. So usually I do say I have the opportunity to go to seminary in order to be certified as a pastor to serve in our church. So there's 3 things.
So seminary, certified, pastor in this congregation is the goal, the outcome.
And then usually people pick their, what? What do you mean by that? About one of those 3 things. What is certification? What do you mean you're going to seminary? What are you going to serve at? So
does one of those 3 come up more?
I think as Laurie's saying, getting people to understand, no, it's just here. We're not getting on the road and looking for jobs across the country. It's just here at St. Luke's in Federal Way. So people are interested to know that.
Yeah.
Do people ask you that kind of in a worried that means you're moving, or in a hopeful that you're moving closer to where they are?
Hopeful that we're moving away.
I think I've heard it as, at least this is the way I interpret it, as more of a commitment to this church. Mm-hmm. Not like Dave is going to become a pastor and then, we might move somewhere.
Yeah, I think most of my family members have said, yeah, cool, I'm not surprised. And a lot of the people in the church here have been super supportive. I wasn't sure how people would answer, and they're like, yeah, here? Oh, that's great, kind of thing. So I think as people start to understand more, they're realizing we're not off on Laurie specifically said, we're not off on a new career trajectory moving around the country. So it really fits. So, yeah.
It's interesting hearing this in light of, just as my own selfish person, I always think about myself. Yeah. And so when you said people were not surprised.
Yeah.
when I was coming out of high school, when I set out to study towards pastoral ministry, and most of my high school friends said, "You? Really? Like Dan Weber, like you?" And so this is very different conversations.
Yeah.
So the question a question I get or have gotten in my ministry for a long time, and that I don't have a short answer. So it's maybe not fair to ask you to answer it concisely. Dave, how'd you know you wanted to be a pastor? Or when did you feel the call? Those are questions I get a lot, and they're good, wholly appropriate questions. But when did you feel this, we would say, inner call, or how did you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know how to answer that specifically, given the background. So I don't necessarily, and we don't necessarily have a out of the box. I know nobody does, but it wasn't that I grew up in a Lutheran home with a Lutheran dad who was a Lutheran pastor, and it's very easy to answer that way. But now when I look back, there's certain things I see that I don't think I was paying attention to for some time. So I remember being very young and being in the Catholic Church and going to a seminary there to watch the rites of initiation and having conversations with people around that time. And I was probably 10 or 12 about, how do I have a life in the church kind of thing. And they probably, it didn't stick for whatever number of reasons. And then all along the way from that till now, and I'm 63 next month, there's been places along the way that have been that, not an audible call. We have to come up for another word, but encouragement and challenge to move closer to God and move closer to serving and move closer to folding my life deeper into the church than just coming on Sunday for me. Mm-hmm. And Laurie's been great. So along the way, I've done some seminary work, a couple of programs across time. And when I looked at Laurie and said, I really think this might be something, she was gracious enough to go, yes, let's do this. Let's do this again, but the right way with what we're doing. So I've felt it I won't go into all of them, but I have felt impelled, convicted, I don't know what the right word is, to give more of my time to service to God in his church.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
beautiful.
Oh, okay. We'll stop then.
I want to keep hearing your guys' story. I also want to add my notes as pastor to people who might be listening that, and we know each other well, Dave, but I think you would agree or say, or I guess I could ask you, that doesn't mean you're somehow a better Christian, or people who want to grow in their faith need to become full-time professional church workers. No. That's something that you're feeling as a unique call for you, and other people serve the Lord in different ways.
100% and more. And I mean, just sitting at this table, looking at Brenda and Laurie and you all serving in different ways. And thanks to Bonhoeffer and Luther and some other people who I love to read, it's just the every vocation has a place that is serving the gospel. And there's a confluence of things now in our lives that makes it possible that I can serve in this way, but not achieving some, I'm a black belt now, or I've got the platinum plan. No, it's just a different way to serve.
Yeah. Laurie, is he weirder now that he's a seminary student?
No, he's been weird since I met him.
All right.
Does he nerd out more on stuff?
He's always nerded out on stuff, but just now the topics are, different sometimes.
It's got encouragement, because you mentioned your 11 other theology people. You mentioned that as your high, and I was thinking Jesus with his 12. But I'm assuming you were referring to your coursework with your cohort of fellow students.
Yes, every Monday we're online. There are 12 in the cohort and the professor. And so it is a place to have a good nerdy conversation. We actually have a saying, if I look at Laurie and say I'm weird, or Laurie looks at me and she says I'm weird, we just look at each other and go, well, you're my weird.
Aww.
So yeah, so there's a place to do that.
So what's describe coursework right now? What's that looking like?
So this is a 4-year program. This is the first course, so it's introducing you practically to what is a pastor, what is the church, what is the call. So there's a lot of beautiful information in this about how this unfolds scripturally within the confessions and within the LCMS's affection for Walther. And those line up to say, hey, this is what it means. And it's starting to fill in all the shadows of knowledge or coloring inside the lines of what that is. And that'll be another 7 weeks on that topic.
And are you, do you have homework? Do you, what does the load look like?
There's a ton of reading. There's a few hundred pages a week of reading.
100 pages. You missed that, Brenda?
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been there and you've been there. There's a ton of reading. There are quizzes, there's writing journals and online responses and discussions about the different topics. So I think so far we've been doing okay time management wise, and just making a little bit more space for reading, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
When you do meet up with your cohorts, so you said professors there too.
Yeah.
Is that very lecture led, or is it everybody like very conversational for that kind of a Zoom class?
I think they've done a beautiful job. And I had the opportunity to do 2 years of seminary with Denver Seminary online, and that was very lecture driven and very knowledge driven. But what I'm finding with the SMP program is it's kind of a cohesive pulling together of all the stuff. So when it's partially lecture driven, but partially a discussion about everything you just looked at this week. So it gives a chance to lean into the professor's knowledge, but have a discussion with other men that are going through this across the country. And that generates a lot of conversation. So you're not just sitting writing stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be neat because you do have people from across the country. So everybody's in a different context, the specific ministry program. So everybody's got a different specific context. It'd be interesting to hear everybody's different experiences as they're going through this program, but you're all doing it together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for example, one of the men in California is at a high school, and his ministry is as a counselor at a high school and a minister at a high school. And another gentleman back in Detroit is at a church of, he's going to go to a church of about 25 people and kind of either help them grow and revive or fold them into another church. So he's going to have a very different walk. And there's other people in St. Louis that are doing a lot of work within the community about reaching out and bringing the church out to the community rather than it's beautiful to see and have the conversations with everybody that's doing it a little bit differently. Yeah.
You said something in passing that I just linger on and delight in. It's not a question, but you mentioned, we're talking about like, what is the church and the pastor and just how we can take even very, very simple or seemingly obvious things for granted.
Yeah.
Like even just the four of us, like what is the church? You know, like that's a beautiful thing and there's tons of nuance and ways we could answer it. And I think for our people on a Sunday morning of what is the church, and people in the South Puget Sound might answer it very differently than somebody in North Carolina or St. Louis or Orange County.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the basis of some of these discussions. So not just learning, not just knowledge gaining, but this in particular is, well, what does that mean practically? And I think this is where my mentor,
by the way, that's me, everybody. I'm signing off on some of this stuff.
Yeah, really. You can hold Pastor Dan responsible for this. But some of that is bringing that back and asking, well, how does that work for our congregation? What does that mean? What does that mean in your role or in Brenda's role? Or I know my wife's volunteering. So how does that fold into? So I think that Concordia's done really well to put together a program that brings knowledge, but it's enriching and practical, which is for what I want to do, I think, very helpful.
Yeah.
Hi.
Laurie, so you weren't surprised when this kind of made sense a little bit. Are there any specific things in Dave that you're able to say to the larger world that this is why this resonates, or I'm excited that Dave gets to use this part of who God has made him and shaped him to be, and because as his wife, you've seen aspects of him that his coworkers probably don't. And is there anything in particular that you're like, yeah, that's going to be good for the church?
He sees things differently than most people do, or even I do. I don't quite know how to explain it so that it makes sense. Just the way that he understands the Bible and understands God's word, and what the church is supposed to be. I just, sometimes I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, okay, never thought of it that way. Yeah, I think he has a lot to offer in the way that he approaches things, and just his knowledge and the way he expresses what he knows.
Yeah.
And he likes data.
He likes data.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dave, aspects about pastoral ministry, top one or two you're most excited about, and top one or two that you're most challenged by.
Yeah.
I was going to say nervous about, but some things feel like I got this. Other things like that's a growth area for me if I'm going to be trying to do that.
Yeah. I love teaching, and not just the moment of speaking, but the preparation for it and figuring out what are we trying to do and say. And I feel comfortable in that space. That's less of a nervous space for me. I like working on that stuff. I'm joyfully burdened by the thought of preaching, which I feel both and we talked about this, the burden to speak God's word, but the joy that it's God speaking it through me, not that I have to grasp it all so well. And then I know that the body coming together isn't all joy, that there's sorrow, hurt, pain. Sometimes we could just say suffering, and being a good man in somebody's suffering is I don't know how to wrap that up, but being good to somebody in their suffering, or entering into the suffering well with people that are going through that. Yeah, that's a little bit intimidating.
That's intimidating. I thought you were saying that's something you're excited about, because in my head that looks. You've got partly a medical background, right? I
am a registered nurse in the state of Washington. I've worked in healthcare for about 35 years. Started out in emergency departments. So, yeah. So
in a surface or like an acute sense of suffering, you've been with people in like real pain, like just very direct, literal, physical pain.
Yeah.
Dave used to work in the trauma room.
In the trauma room? Oh my goodness.
Of a hospital, so he has seen it all.
Yeah. That makes me uncomfortable. Like, I love visiting people, but even starting pastoral ministry, the idea of going to the hospital, I love it now, and I've grown in that, but I get real queasy, I get real faint. All three of my children's birth, like Charlotte was holding my hand, comforting me. Like, it's going to be okay, Dan.
Stand up. It's okay.
So,
oh, Charlotte. Well, the hospitals.
Exactly. It's poor Charlotte.
The hospital is a very different environment and all sorts of different smells and experiences. So
lots of pastoral work happens in hospitals and various care facilities.
Yeah. So the idea of visiting is exciting. The idea of, being with people, and it's the sense of being a representative of a Jesus who loves people that gets intimidating when you're looking eye to eye with somebody who's going through a terrible suffering. So,
Yeah.
Not
All
just a physical thing, but
no, not
Yeah,
just, yeah. And we've had opportunities where we've walked with people in that space, so it's not unfamiliar. I just think it kind of ups the game if somebody's looking at you and calling you vicar or pastor. There's a certain set of expectations to be that for them.
Do you feel like an imposter yet?
Oh yeah, day one. On the application form, there was a box: imposter, not imposter. There's a little bit of imposter syndrome going on. Yeah.
I don't know, Brenda, as a church worker, do you feel like an imposter?
probably all of the time.
Yeah. Probably approximately all the time.
Yeah. I think part of it is there's always that comparison game. Like you see other church workers, you see other people in any capacity of like a professional level, and from the outside, people look like they've got it together and they're doing it, or they've got skills in an area that you don't. And you're like, I'm not that. So then am I doing a good job in my role? Which I think if you get into that kind of spiral, it could pull you out of the game completely, so to speak, of, well, I shouldn't even try. I should step back. But then I think if everybody thought that and everybody stepped back, nobody would be in the game.
Yeah.
So yes, imposter all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons it's so comfortable, so great to be doing this with Laurie, because when I get up inside my own head and start thinking about that, I have somebody that says, hey, wait, it's not about you. Mostly.
Yeah.
She doesn't slap me upside the head, though I think it would be appropriate sometimes, but Laurie's always kind of pointing me back to, hey, it's not about you. Look up. So
a couple weeks ago, I was describing the program to a friend, colleague of mine, and he asked specifically about teaching. He's like, Weber, what? Is he any good? Very direct conversation. And I mentioned that, well, last summer, whenever it was, I wasn't teaching Bible study for about 6 weeks, and by the time I got back in there, attendance had gone up. And so, some people might be intimidated, but I was like, hallelujah, this is great. Laurie, I want to ask you, were you in any of the classes when Dave was teaching, like in the great room with?
Yes.
Okay. What's that like as quiet wife of quiet man who?
You're now a vicar's wife.
Yeah, you traditionally sit as far away as you can in the shadows of the room. You're present, but you're not seen. And now the guy you normally hide with has a microphone up front.
Yes.
And the person who's teaching God's word, what he's actually like. Like how is it hearing his Bible study?
Well, first of all, I sit in the back there to reserve our spots for when David's
It's for
not
him.
teaching.
Okay.
Just to make sure, right? And there are other introverts that sit with me, so
I wasn't trying to mock, by the way.
No.
I think that's beautiful.
that's okay. I enjoy Dave's teaching, and I do sometimes get a preview, and I do appreciate. I also like data. I do appreciate all the graphs and numbers and all the stuff he puts up, and all the artwork. I think he does a great job teaching. I have listened to Dave teach before. When we were living out in Redmond, we attended a church in Bellevue, and he was part of we were part of a Bible study group, and Dave was being mentored to take over that group. And so Dave taught at that group a number of times. And I enjoy it because I learn something, of course, every time. And
I do you want to give up the hand signals? This is my coach, so we kind of debrief sometimes afterwards, and now we've got the hand signals of slow down.
Ooh, good. Okay.
Like actually from the back of the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I tried it, but then when
It didn't work, huh?
yeah,
He
when
didn't see it.
when he was doing a little I don't know, a sermon or whatever at the retirement home that we visited. I was holding up my hand, but he didn't quite understand or see.
He waved
or,
back.
Yeah.
Hi, Lori.
Well, I was holding it at an angle, so it wasn't a clear sign. And he was like, "I was slow." I'm like, "No." There's got to be a couple of breaths sometimes in between.
I feel like I'm at a table with safe people that can help that, speak up was one hand signal, which was raise the hand.
Okay.
Slow down, which
Yeah.
is one hand signal. So if I look out and see you all anywhere, that you can do those. And I know I might get this one,
Okay.
which is just
You're not as
stop.
funny as you think you are, signal somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's-
They're not with you.
just look really disappointed at me.
I found you just got to adjust your expectations. I don't need everybody in the room to laugh or to be with me. A few people is all the encouragement I need. You're full speed ahead. I'm okay leaving most of you behind.
That's a win right there.
That's yeah.
Yes, so I think one of the things that people might not see is like I said, being with Laurie, like if I'm up at midnight working on a study, there's all of a sudden a cup of coffee next to me, or somebody going, "Hey, did you finish that?" or "How are you doing on that?" And then there's somebody in the audience that'll come to me after and go, "I love you. Slow down." So it's not a walk alone.
Okay.
But I do think that being introverts and stuff, that Laurie might be eclipsed by it all, but it's certainly her walking with me.
I feel like that's what I'm hearing, that it's like, yes, you're the one taking the classes and undergoing this program and everything, but it sounds like you're doing it together. Like there is support. It's not just, all right, Dave's got it. I'm going to do my own thing while he does his own thing. But it's nice to hear that there is that quiet, that gentle, that just like constant support there, because there whether there is or there isn't expectations for like a pastor's wife. I'm losing my train of thought of where I was going with that.
They're in it together.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not much I can offer other than helping Dave to have that time to be focused and supported, to listen, not to add extra burdens, when he's trying to get his homework done, just the scheduling of things and the stuff around the house. I just try to make it easy, but I'm not going to do any reading. I'm not going to read along. Nope, not happening. So.
No, but you gently, beautifully said, "Yeah, go ahead and read to me."
Yeah, there are times when, yeah.
And it was a year-long conversation to get to the point where we were announced to the church, and that part of that conversation was us trying to get to, like you're saying, right? So, hey, I have this idea, Laurie. What do you think? Right? We had some intense fellowship moments, some serious questions about where are we going, because it is walking a life path together, right? So if we weren't doing this, what would that look like? Or if you wanted to do something, what would that look like? So it's not a capitulation, but it took a long, part of some conversation, say, well, what is this going to mean for us?
Yeah. So Brenda is not a pastor, but Brenda's worked in church work for a handful of years now. How many years?
10 years now.
10 years.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What do Dave and Laurie not know? Or like what's it important if somebody's going to be in full-time ministry, working with staff, with volunteers, with a congregation? Like what's going to help them succeed both kind of in ministry and in their, because you've been married for five years now.
Mm-hmm.
So you are a church worker married to a non-church worker, and you've been doing ministry for 10 years. what's gonna set them up for success?
I think going in knowing that there's no set of clocking in, clocking out, that church work, ministry type work is at all hours. So it's hard to learn where to set those personal boundaries of, I want to be available and be all things to all people at all hours, but also be healthy for me and get rest and sleep, and also be healthy for my spouse and our family, and have our time. So learning that, not that I have the best advice of how to set those things, but knowing that there will always be a pull for your time and for your attention, and that, but also knowing we can't do it all for all people. I cannot fix this thing for this person. I can be there for them, but there's also only so much I can do, and I'm not God. I have to tell myself that a lot. I can't fix it for everybody as much as I want to.
Yeah.
That's really insightful.
Yeah. It's something to take.
Yeah. I'm not God, which you'd think of all people who like study the Bible for a living and teach
obviously.
it. But yet that's I think for all of humanity, that's our great burden. Dave, are there any classes that you're most looking forward to at this point?
It sounds cliche. All of them. So this is practical, but the first couple of years are more on the formation and preparation that gets you ready to be certified as a pastor within the LCMS. And then after that is more of the theological and historical things in the last 2 years. And I think those are the ones that's where I like to live up in my head.
Yeah.
Dave likes history.
Okay.
And he likes to learn.
Yeah. But it is, all of them are, they're just cool to be in. So.
All right. I mean, I have so many things I want to keep asking, but I also don't want to dominate Brenda if you're something. You're like, will he just stop talking for a second so I can get a word in?
I keep having a thought rattling in my head, and it's partly, I think I can do it. Like a brag on you, Dave, as a friend, like you asked Laurie, like, what do you see in Dave as like, what are you excited for the church with him coming into this role? And I think what I've seen is this like gift of mentorship, of discipleship, of like seeking out people and having conversations with them, like drawing stuff out of them, like my husband. He, after having conversations with you and when you guys meet up, he comes home and talks about the Bible and different ideas, and he'll come home and say, I hadn't thought about this that way, but Dave said this, which was really interesting. It's like it sparks all these like late evening conversations that were not happening, or at least not that often before. So like I'm really grateful for that. So like that's a gift to him and us as a couple. And I feel like I'm seeing that happen with other men, other people at church. So I'm excited for the church for that our vicar, our next pastor, like would be bringing that gift. Yeah, so that's been in my head as we've been talking.
That's very kind. I think hopefully I'm not giving them too wild an idea. Where did you get that? And it's the evidence of the work of the Spirit in those conversations. And I walk away with them. There's 4 of us right now that have coffee. I walk away with them a lot. And it's a place that I think helps my marriage, because I'm not just like doing one-on-one with Laurie. Have you thought about blah, blah, blah? And Laurie's like, I'm trying to make dinner. Do you mind? So it's I enjoy encountering and being with other Christians and either learning from them or helping to see some of the things, some of the beauty that comes out of God's word. And especially today when that's not prominent in a lot of places, I think it's great.
When what's not prominent? Say that again.
That people aren't chewing on the word, right? So when we have coffee with Adam, right, that he's chewing on the word. And it's not about me being right or him being right or wrong. It's more about, well, let's chew on it. What is that, right? And then going farther. And we do it sometimes at home with Laurie and I, just in our discussions. But there's another place where if somebody says yes, they'll have a coffee with me. Oh, okay, let's go. I'm excited to do it. So those were kind words, but hopefully that's the evidence of the Spirit moving in people to learn about who God is.
So that was Brenda, a bit of like, I see this in you, which is beautiful. And maybe I could ask you two. You've been a part of St. Luke's for a handful of years.
Yeah.
Why did you come back a second time? And like if you were to speak to the people of God here, like, hey, I see this in you as a church.
Yeah.
What do you see here? Why'd you stick around?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that? Do you want to start?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I'll fill in.
So we've
Watch for the hand signals, by the way.
yeah, slow down. So our faith walked us through a lot of different places because we moved, because churches fell apart, because of all of these things, right? Different things along everybody's story of how they arrived. And I think that when we arrived at St. Luke's, we actually sat upstairs in the balcony for a few weeks before we ventured into the lobby to actually meet people because we weren't sure. But there was for me, I'm going to use Lutheran language. The word and sacraments were rightly administered. I wouldn't have been able to say that to you when we walked in the door, but it was something we were yearning for. And with that, the ease of meeting people and becoming part of the communion here, and just people having us in life groups and then dinners and such like that. So I think St. Luke's embodies the best we've seen in churches, and it's not like we're trying to find this is the gold standard or whatever, because no church is perfect, and we know St. Luke's isn't perfect, but that even with the challenges that churches face, St. Luke's legacy, its current space and where it's looking to go, fit for what we know of God's word and trying to follow Jesus in a Christian life. So that's why we came back, or why we've been coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
You could have said the donuts, and I'd still like you. Just I don't say whatever you want. So, Laura, you don't have to sound like a seminary student.
That's okay. Well, I was going to say cookies are very important to me.
Yeah.
And get there before the kids do. I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it's a stampede at 10:40.
This was good advice.
I think part of the reason we came back is, at least in my mind, is John and Jan knew our names.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people were nice, and the gospel was being preached without yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The liturgy
Yes.
echoed of some of the things we missed.
So you grew up with some Catholic upbringing, so
Yeah.
that I would guess either some people it resonates, it feels like home,
Yeah.
or they hate it because it feels like their childhood. But there was a resonance for you.
Yeah.
And Laurie, I'm imagining you felt the liturgy, as we express it, differently than your husband.
Very much so. I didn't start going to church till my late 20s and have attended a non-denominational church the whole time, I guess, since I've been going to church. And the 8:15 service is still very foreign to me. I did an Ash Wednesday service here for the first time. I've had a lot of those experiences for the first time here. And then understanding the Christ candle that is at the altar, and just, it's been wonderful, but I'm still learning because I didn't grow up Catholic. I didn't grow up anything. So it's been wonderful to experience it.
Can you picture Dave in a white robe up there leading the service?
Actually, yes,
Okay.
because of what I have seen him do since we were attending that church in Bellevue.
Yeah.
And I have seen that call in him. I didn't necessarily see a pastor call, but I did see definitely a teaching and a gift that he had. And I remember him when he was still attending Denver Seminary, and we started going to this church. I know that I think he was a little discouraged that there was no outlet for that gift at that time that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And
We don't just don't let anybody preach around here.
Yeah.
yes, and,
I want to talk. Nope.
yeah,
Exactly.
and that's another reason I'm here. But so it was kind of sad for a little while
Yeah.
that we didn't see an opportunity, and I felt a little hope, and here we are. And I'm very thankful.
I think, thank you. I think so. So in the evangelical world, we were kind of walking a path that would have led to maybe an MDiv and maybe a chance to be
Master of Divinity. It's
Master of Divinity.
credentials.
Yeah, and like Laurie said, there were people that were pouring into me and us to kind of encourage that along, and then I think was part of our departure from the wasteland of evangelical. I don't know what the right words are, but from the dry and arid, it was our departure to here. And so when Laurie says, when we got here, we couldn't see that path here. And we were kind of content. We're part of a church that's got wonderful worship and reaching out in the community and all those things. And then as we took time and explored and then had conversations about, well, what would it look like for different things here? I think it's, as Laurie said, it's like, actually maybe the reason it didn't work out in all these places because it probably wasn't the right thing, but here it feels so right. And I don't know. Okay, I'll be quiet.
All right. I've got one last question for Brenda.
Yeah.
I also want to celebrate. I think there have only been maybe 2 of our Canadian stories in the podcast today.
That's true.
I thought about keeping a tally, but I chose not to. But I want to celebrate. It's been a few.
Sorry.
All right, there you go. Knowing both of you as being relatively quiet and gentle people, I need to ask Brenda this. So, Brenda, several people listening right now are members of St. Luke's. They're worshipers of St. Luke's, or maybe they have a home church of their own. Specifically for us here, thinking about Dave and Laurie, how can our people support them? And somebody, maybe you're part of a church somewhere else. Think about how you can support your leaders. Maybe you're not part of a church at all, but you're part of an organization, and there's people who are trying to serve, and it's hard. So rather than asking Laurie and Dave, how can we support you? They'll give some nice answer. But like, these are a future, current, and developing church worker and spouse, and ministry is beautiful and hard. So like, people who are listening right now going, all right, cool, they sound like decent people. How can I support?
I think one way is, we were talking about love languages earlier. So words of affirmation, words of encouragement. I hear many, many complimentary things about the both of you. And I hope, and I probably should do a better job of like, hey, you should tell them that, and not just me. Like, that's great to hear. I can pass that thing on, but it's nice to hear it from the source. So I hear lots of those things. So I would say share those words of encouragement. And also, don't all swoop down on them at once, because they also need a little bit of bubble of space. So like one at a time.
So one at a time.
Yeah.
And say the things.
Yes.
And say the encouragement.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one more question for you two. So when Pastor Ian asked like what it was that had you come back after that first visit, and you talked about the gospel's preached here and worship, and people knew your name. I've also noticed both of you are very good at inviting friends, and your friends show up. What do you say when you're inviting them? I think that's
and non-Christian friends.
Yes, non-Christian friends to come to a church, whether they have a church background or not. But I think that's something that's tough. Like, we love our church, but also like, how do I invite my neighbor? Like, hey, I'm not a weirdo. Like, I just want you to come to my church. Like, come and check it out. How do you guys invite your friends?
We say, hey, we're not weirdos. You want to come?
We're just real people sharing the good news of Jesus.
Yeah. And that was very kind, by the way. And there have been a lot of people there's people walking up to me in this church that I don't know that have been saying kind words of affirmation to us. And so that's kind that you've said that as well. I kind of have this weird idea that we live on the border of a kingdom that butts against another kingdom, and that you go back and forth across that border all the time, and come here and get replenishment and go out into the world. And we don't have a large net of friends. We're not that kind, but we have a small community. And when people do kind of become part of our lives, we don't hide one part of the world from the other. And so generally people from different faith or not believing at all know that we're Christians. So it's really easy to go, hey, we're doing this at church. And this is where like some of the community events you put together, or it's an easy entry point to say, come on Wednesday night, we're having soup. Do you want to stay for a service? Right. And so I think it's, it feels, for the most part, it feels safe. That's probably going to get we'll talk on the walks, but it feels safe to invite people here, where in other churches, we did not feel as safe to invite people that were not of the faith. So it feels safe to do that here. There are easy entry points to do that. And when people have come, they've just gotten consumed in that lobby. People are like, who are you? And how are you? And so that same thing that we felt, we know, okay, we've abandoned our friends in the lobby.
But you know they'll be okay.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, go. And so I think all of that, as well as seeing the service that we do, just makes people comfortable here.
That's no small thing, by the way, to feel safe to bring a friend. I just want to pause and celebrate that.
Yeah.
It's one of my litmus tests as I think about our church or somebody else's. If for our church listening audience right now, would you invite a friend to your church if you weren't going to be there that weekend?
If you couldn't be a buffer.
Yeah, if you didn't get to hand them off to your people and they didn't know anybody, would you feel that would be a safe place for somebody's first visit?
Yeah.
And then if it is, we can celebrate that. And if not, let's get to work this Sunday. Let's be that place for those people.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people serving that aren't seen that makes it easy to do that, like John and some of the other ushers. And then there's other people, that we know we can walk up and say, hey, here's our friend, and walk away, and they connect with them. So there's people in this church that care about people.
That's awesome.
I don't know if that makes
awesome. So here's what's next. Some of the journey as far as the SMP specific ministry pastor program goes. Dave's going to be doing homework for 4 years straight, or until Jesus comes back.
Yes.
So 15-ish hours every week. You'll have hopefully some downtime in between classes.
Yeah, I think there's weeks here and there.
We are going to be celebrating. I've been using the word installation. I think the fancy word was induction. So a vicar induction or installation service. Let me confirm the dates. That is not. So this will be released on Saturday the 8th-ish. So then the following Sunday on March 16th, Dave Gallagher will officially become a Vicar Dave for ministry here at St. Luke's.
Woo!
That's wild. And then you've got roughly 2 years of full-time classes, and then you would be eligible for ordination and to receive a call from this congregation to serve as pastor here. And then you would still have about 2 more years of school that if you drop the ball, then we take it back and you're out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, really. If we got to the call and people said, not so much. But I think what we want to make sure people know is it kind of fits into our life right now. We don't have kids. It's not trying to raise a baby or anything. So there's time to do the studying, and I've got a great partner in Laurie.
And you're still working.
I'm still working, and we're exploring what it looks like to do kind of a change over the next year or two. So our goal isn't to carry a burden of, doing 2 jobs for the next 4 years. It's like, how does this fit into our life plans?
Yeah.
So
I also just want to acknowledge that you're not sounding like a martyr to say, I also have a full-time job, but I want to set the expectation for God's people here of, hey, how come Dave's not doing more? Well, he also has a full-time job besides his 15-hour-a-week non-job of being a student.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he's doing here is on top of those things. Oh, he also has a full-time wife that he's loving and trying to talk with.
And 2 pugs.
And 2 pugs who need a lot of attention.
They're very needy.
They're very needy pugs.
Yes.
So that's kind of a sketch of where we're going from here. Induction, installation, commissioning, so to speak, on Sunday, March 16th. And then when's your first message going to be? First sermon?
I'm flat-footed now.
That's all right.
It's
Put you on the
coming
spot.
up in the Lenten service.
A midweek.
March 26th.
Thank you.
So 10 days after. So a week and a half after being formally induced, inducted.
Yes.
I know, my brain kept going to induced. I wasn't going to say it till
After Dave is induced. Pitocin, is that what they give you to induce you?
Yes.
All right, you're going to get a Pitocin injection. And then 10 days later or so, you'll get to bring the word on a Wednesday evening.
Yes.
And that's exciting.
It's super exciting. Thank you for the notes earlier. I'm still trying to put my thoughts together in a coherent way.
Yeah. So if it goes well, people can commend Dave and give thanks to God for his faithfulness. If it goes poorly, you can blame his supervisor and mentor who was a little bit lax on the oversight.
Yeah, I think it actually goes the other way, but that's okay.
We'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for Laurie. Thanks for coming in. Brenda, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I want to keep talking, but I also want to wrap it up because we've got things to do and our listeners have things to do. Yeah, back to work. But it's not the last people are going to hear from us. Do you want people to say hi to you on Sunday? Do you want people to, Brenda said line up, wait your turn.
Yes, I do love it when people say hi, and I do try and remember names of people that are younger than me.
Are you open to dinner invitations if people say, I want to meet the new pastor's family, even though you're not a pastor yet, you can just smile?
Yeah. Yes, we're open to dinner, and we have no food preferences or allergies. But sometimes, that's true.
Laurie has preferences.
Yeah. Sometimes scheduling's hard, but we'd love to. Dinner, lunch, coffee, if anybody wants to have it with us.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the conversation. Thanks
you.
for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Maybe you've learned a few things about funerals and what else did we talk about? Oh, sand.
Yes.
Sandbar.
Sandwich.
And a sandwich. So question of the day next time, what's your favorite sandwich? But it give you some chance to think on that.
Thank you.
Take care.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 Podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.